people, they come out and it's their life. They want to come. I don't know if you read the story in there where we were playing the show. I took my shirt off. It was this old nasty Social Distortion shirt. It was all ripped up and I was soaking wet. It was such a hot show. And I went to put my shirt down. And everyone's like, oh, we want the shirt. We want the shirt. And I just threw it and they all jumped at it. And like 10 people just pulled the shirt. And I'm like, oh, the shirt's ruined. You know, somebody probably wanted that shirt. They just wanted a piece of the shirt so they could have a piece of memorabilia of the show. And that floored me. And then after the show, I took a shower. I'm hanging out by the merch stand, and some kid said, oh, I see you have Levi's blue jeans? I go, yeah. I didn't think anything of it. He goes, I dream to someday be able to have a pair. And right there and then I took my pants off, and I'm like, take them, dude. He was roughly my size. I'm like, you can have them. I saw what it means to these people to go to a show and enjoy themselves. And I saw what we take for granted in America, and it really made my heart swell.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Level Up Cleveland. And this week we have a real legend in the house with us, Mr. Don Foose.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm a big fan of yours, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. But honestly, big fan. You are the true legend type. Well, you are, man. I mean, come on.
Thank you.
We're gonna go over everything. You are one of the most multifaceted people we've ever had on here as far as what you're involved in. I mean, you're more than a musician, but that basically has gotten you started in this entire path that you've ended up on was being involved in music. But since then, you're an author. You've written a couple books.
Yeah.
And what you're currently involved in is a band from France.
Yeah. So One Life All In. You know, I met these guys a long time ago when the Spudmonsters were on tour. They would come to our shows, and they were big fans of the band, and we became really good friends. And then they asked me, they were in a band called Seekers of the Truth, and they asked me to do a guest spot on one of their albums, and I did. And, you know, through the years, you know, they just had this plan. They're like, hey, you know, let's do a little side project. And I really didn't want to do it at first, but
it's cool.
Yeah, you know, I started getting the music. I said, well, send me something. We'll see, you know, if we can move forward with it. You know, I want to be inspired. I don't want to just do it because they're my friends, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we were just talking before this, too. Like, one thing about all these bands, and we'll get into all this, but one thing about all these bands that I found, and I've been listening to all of them all week, and for good reason. They're catchy, and you kind of get addicted to it. You want to keep listening to it.
Thank you.
But there is a common, you know, musically, there's some definitely different things going on. Musically, but it's not really. I mean, because it's all that metal, hardcore stuff. And this stuff you're doing now, for anybody just to get an idea, constantly I was reminded of Anthrax throughout this entire stuff listening to this.
Really?
Constantly, not when I'm like, well, you sound like Anthrax. I'm just saying, reminded me of where there was just certain things. Even the way you sing sometimes, you have a Joey Belladonna thing sometimes where your voice can hit those. Yeah, I mean, really like impressive, very cool, super catchy stuff.
Wow, thanks.
You guys, you use a lot of those gang vocals. You got, you know, like today where everybody's going back and forth with you got the Cookie Monster guy and then the singer, or the rapper and then the singer. You kind of have that old school gang vocal thing that the hardcore guys used to all do back even in the 80s and stuff. It was real prevalent and
even
stuff.
When Kiss did it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
absolutely.
where I got it from.
And it's like, it's a back and forth almost play that you do with it too, man. And it's catchy as hell. It
Cool.
gets you going.
Thanks.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
I think you're also well known as being very acrobatic on stage.
Yeah, I'm a little bit
you're,
up there.
you're kind of maniacal in your own way. I mean,
Yeah.
but you can do things that a lot of people can't do because you're in great shape. You're a motivational speaker on top of things, other things. You're a motivational guy. You love to motivate. You love to teach people. you're all over the place, man. You have so much going on. You're another one of them guys we want to talk about as far as time management goes and how you do all these things and keep things going.
Yeah.
But let's go back a little bit. I want to go back to like before all this stuff. Like, are you originally from Cleveland area? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in and around Cleveland in the suburbs and stuff, and then, directly in Cleveland, all my life. And then, like when I got out of high school, I moved in to Cleveland over off Riverside, right 25th and 71 area right there. Met the guys in Purgatory and, had this house where all the people in bands would live periodically and stuff. And it was cool. That was one of the houses.
Oh yeah, and it was your house that they would all go to?
Well, it was a buddy I went to high school with bought this house. It was a little crappy $12,000, bottom barrel house, a duplex. We lived downstairs. They lived upstairs.
Oh, and that became the party house for
That was the party house for everybody.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Now, are you already doing the music thing at this point?
A little bit, just kind of toying around with bands, but not doing anything serious.
Now you've always been the front guy for these bands too, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, it's like, what else can you get into in the punk rock world unless you don't even have to know how to sing in a punk rock band.
But you are a singer, I mean, but you can sing.
I kind of evolved into it,
Yeah, you can do anything. You got a even that way you're multifaceted.
Yeah,
I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I even asked Jeff Hatrix whenever I started writing some of my first songs. I'm like, how do I do this? And he's like, there's no rules, man. Just make it cool, make it your own.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, and I'm still doing that today. I'm still writing stuff that challenges me. I don't like to write the same record over and over. I want to do something new and fresh and exciting.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but the Spudmonsters was the band that you first, I think, that's when you very first kind of hit the scene in a bigger way, and that's what people would first know you from them days.
Yeah.
And Spudmonsters were a real big band back in the day. They were real big.
Yeah, I auditioned for them, and I didn't make the cut the first time, So I went and started a band with my buddy Scott Dolan called the Bagmen, and we recorded like an EP and, started playing some shows. We did some cool shows. We played with Sick of It All. We played with SNFU, some cool bands, And then one night I was at a show at the Fantasy Theater, or Fantasy Nightclub. Chris Andrews, the guitarist, leader of the Spudmonsters, came up to me and he's like, hey, you still interested in singing for us? Because I had like 3 auditions and they didn't know who they wanted to take yet. It was between me and some dude named Stiffo. And I said, yeah, I'm still interested. He said, welcome aboard. He shook my hand. He's like, we got to get started quick, though. We got a lot to do. And I was like, yeah, no shit. So it was like,
shit.
We practiced every day, sometimes even on Sundays, and we go through the entire set 2-3 times. It was pretty militant, but it was cool. It was the education that I didn't have that I needed to be a serious musician,
So they're very well disciplined.
Oh, yeah. And when I started singing, I was singing out of time. I was singing out of key. There was all kinds of stuff that it's like I needed to learn how to do things in a professional manner, which I didn't, and it was cool. It was great. It was
would you say this just took some time though? Like you evolved into all this over the course of the Spudmonsters?
Yeah. I was always in school when I was in the Spudmonsters. We just were always going at it. If we weren't in the studio, we were playing shows or we were rehearsing. We were always doing something. There was always something on the docket. It's like, where are we playing this weekend? What's next? We always had some goals, and if you're a goal-oriented band, you can do so much. If you don't have goals, if you don't always have something on your calendar, then you get complacent.
Yeah, and that's one thing. You guys just weren't a local band. Spudmonsters played around the world. I think something like 23 countries or something. You guys played in and covered a lot. That's pretty impressive.
Well, it started off, we were playing kind of like the Northeast coast. We'd go to New York and Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Which was like the music that the Spudmonsters were doing. That's where it thrived, was that whole East Coast.
But we were playing some shitholes. I mean, we were playing at the ABC No Rio in New York City. That's like this squat. It's they don't even have, they have cables going out of this place to play people that have like electricity.
Oh, no
yeah.
kidding.
And I looked at this old flyer when we played there, and like a couple days before, Green Day played there, and it was before they were like really big, and somebody got stabbed and murdered there that night, and we're like, oh my God, we're playing the ABC.
Are you a little nervous at that point?
No, it was kind of cool. You know, the guy from Maximum Rock and Roll was there. He's like, yeah, I've been wanting to see you guys for a while. And he was like really nice and cool, and it was just a real punk rock scene there. But, you know, we ended up going through New York, playing CBGB's, playing ABC No Rio, playing Coney Island High. These are like really cool places. Played the Ritz in Long Island. So the more we went there, the more, you know, we got a buzz going each time and had a little bit bigger of a show each time.
So you could actually see the growth. You were watching it before your eyes happening.
Yeah. And then, you know, we got signed to Massacre Records in
Out of Germany. Oh, yeah. Wow.
And that was cool. Our old bass player, Joe Kilcoyne.
Oh,
he's the one that gave him our demo and said, hey, you got to check these guys out. They got like this really great buzz going on. And so, you know, they offered us a tour in Europe with Mucky Pup. And we're like, Mucky Pup, okay. They were kind of a punk rock band. I knew who they were, but, you know, we had just signed with Massacre. The album was just about to come out, and that tour with Mucky Pup was canceled last minute. And then there was a promoter, Carlos Fleischmann from Germany, and he says, you know, Massacre Records was owed a favor by him. And he said, okay, I have the Biohazard tour. Spudmonsters can be on that, you know, for like 14, 15 shows. And we were like, Biohazard? Biohazard was blowing up
huge.
On the Urban Discipline tour. And we were like, wow. So our album came out like that day when we showed up, you know, on the flights. So we get to Germany, we go to our record label, they show us boxes and boxes of Spudmonsters potato chips, Spudmonsters beer, Spudmonsters Frisbees. Here's our CD.
They branded you guys?
Everything. It was awesome. And they had posters, you know, like tour posters of our album and everything. And we're like, whoa. So we go to Munich, Germany. It's our first show of the tour. It's in this big airport hangar. And there's like 3,000 people there, packed. And we're getting ready to go on stage, and we're just kind of like, whoa, we're here. We're doing this, you know? And we're about to go on stage, and Evan from Biohazard says, yo. He opened every sentence with yo. He's from Brooklyn, New York. He's like, yo, don't worry about these people. They're just checking you out. Don't expect them to dance for you or cheer or anything. They'll be into you. You guys are a good band. I'm like, all right. So I was like, come on, man, let's tear this up. Let's go nuts. I just went out there. I'm like, you motherfuckers ready or what? And I just dove in the crowd. I'm like, let's go. You know, I was just like fired up. And the crowd actually did move for us. They went off for us, and it was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So we played the whole set, and these people were like digging it, and it was awesome. I was coming off the side of the stage, and I wrote about this in my book, and I come off the side of the stage, and I looked down the corridor, and the whole hallway is just packed with people, and it looked like there was a big fight going on. I'm like, wow, what's happening, you know? And Evan, he's standing there, he goes, yo, man, they're fighting to get to your merch table. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was just blown away.
Wow. And this is like your introduction to all this.
First show in Europe.
Wow.
We're touring in this little Winnebago with a little trailer behind it. And that was luxury for us because we were always in this smelly little van that had exhaust issues.
Yeah.
We smelled like exhaust fumes all the time. But it was like, whoa, we hit the big time. You know.
So this is like the same story we've heard a few times already with the other guys where it's like in Europe, it's just you guys are like a whole different. It's just totally a different world for you guys, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was like really cool. We were just like, wow, we're here.
So when you get there and you see this merch that they got for you, all this stuff that they've branded, you said potato chips.
Yeah, potato chip.
Spudmonsters. I mean, it makes total sense to have potato chips.
They did it kind of cheap, though. They just slapped a sticker over a Lay's bag, but it's like Spudmonsters. And then they had like some Spudmonsters beer, but it was cool. It was like they were being branded.
But what I was going to say, did you have any idea that they were doing any of that stuff beforehand, or is it all surprising? So this had to be just you.
No, we're tearing open boxes that had our vinyl in there. We were tearing open boxes that had CDs, and I'm like, wow, that's our CD. And I can't remember the guy's name. His last name's Marshall, but he did the Creator album covers and stuff. But he did our album cover too, where these Spud like monster. They made them like really evil looking dudes, you know, holding the heads of Axl Rose and Mick Jagger and all this stuff. You know, and we're like, what's this? But it's cool, whatever. We're a bit controversial, so.
Yeah, and you know, like what other thing we'd heard is in Europe, bands that come from Cleveland, that, you know, that would get your attention if you were from Europe. People like, oh, a Cleveland band, oh, we got to check that out, because that's what, you know. You had Mystic, which was real big.
Yeah.
You had you guys that was real good there, and who's the other band I'm forgetting about?
Torment was over there.
Yeah, Torment. Oh yeah.
Juan Ricardo. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then Winter's Bane. That was Ripper Owens' band. You know, they were on Massacre.
Oh
also.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and just amazing. And what's funny? Oh, and Destructor is another one they got was the
Manimals even went over. Yeah,
Manimals too. Also,
Larry the Wolf,
another one. Yeah, and
Breaker.
Yeah,
I think Shock Paris even went over there.
Yeah, and did well.
Yeah,
and did well.
Because they'll play these festivals where it's just all metalheads and they love it.
Yeah, Destructor's playing some festivals over there this summer. They got 2 festivals over in Europe, in Germany, I believe. Both of them. That's cool.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Great.
They're still doing it. I love that too. I think that's so cool. Okay, so the Spudmonsters.
Yeah.
So you were doing the Spudmonsters thing, and you did that for how long?
Ooh, the first. It's like 9 years, 10 years, and then we disbanded, went our own way. Scott went to New York City, played with the Cro-Mags, and then he played with the guys in Agnostic Front and Madball. Started their own band, and now he's still playing in a band called The Take over there. And then Eric, our drummer, and Eric, the guitarist, they went and played in Propane and did like 5 albums with them.
Kidding.
Yeah, they tried out for... Scott and Eric tried out for Machine Head and had a great audition and stuff, but they ended up going with a couple of local guys from San Francisco, but that would have been cool. But we were friends with those guys, but, you know, they came back and went and did their own thing.
Oh, yeah. So you guys disbanded, and what are you going to do after that? Where does your life go?
Well, I started a band called Run Devil Run, and we signed with Ice Scream Records. There was this journalist over in Europe. His name is Ono Cro-Mag. Actually, today's the anniversary of his passing, but he was a great friend of mine. He said, and he was a writer for this magazine called Heavy oder Was, Heavy or What, you know, big colored magazines, kind of like Kerrang is here. And he said, and he had this real thick accent, Don Foose, I don't give a shit if you fucking go in the studio and puke in there. I want that product. I will get you signed. He goes, I don't care what it sounds like. I just want it. So I was like, all right, cool, man. So I got some friends together. I said, hey, let's do an old school hardcore band, kind of like Spudmonsters, but, you know, more old school New York style, Agnostic Front, Cro-Mag style, Bad Brains, something. And we put together what became Run Devil Run, and did a European tour right away, like a 36-show tour. We split a tour bus with Propane, and a couple of Spuds guys were in that band, so we had that in with them, and it went really well. And then we went and played the Dynamo Festival with Metallica, and SOD played.
Wow, and, SOD.
Yeah, and what's the band? They go out on the stage with their motorcycles.
Not Judas Priest.
No. Oh, they're a great band, though. I can't remember what the hell they're called. You'd know them.
So at this point in time, are you in a situation where the Don Foose name already kind of like legitimizes a situation? So if you walk into a band, Don Foose is playing in this band, is this now a situation where now that band can get put on a bill because they trust you in your ability?
Yeah, everything we were doing was like featuring ex-Spudmonsters vocalist, and then our bass player was the singer from Brothers Keeper, so it was like also, and Mike Ski from Brothers Keeper.
So this is almost like an all-star band.
Yeah, and then our drummer Richie Furjanic, you know, he was in Cold Blood, and they were Victory Records band. And then, you know, our second album in Run Devil Run, we were on Victory Records too, which was the biggest hardcore label in the world.
Sweet. And are you doing most of your stuff now overseas at this point?
Yeah, my only band right now is One Life All In.
No, not right now. I'm talking about at that point in time now. So at that point in time, are you everything is overseas basically, as far as where you're really seeing the success, and that's where you're kind of like doing most of the touring and most of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that was it. And then, we would do weekends and like short tours around here. We would go do Chicago and, just hit,
Little stuff, but it wasn't
a week or two here and there.
So why do you think it was so much? What's the difference there? Do you have any ideas? I mean, do you have a
Yeah, because you could play in a small Bavarian village and it's an event there. It's like in Cleveland, you've got 10 venues and any day of the week you can go and find a show, but it's a big event in some of these places and the people love it. And like when we're playing the Eastern Bloc of Europe, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, these people, they come out and it's their life. They want to come. I don't know if you read the story in there where we were playing the show. I took my shirt off. It was this old nasty Social Distortion shirt. It was all ripped up and I was soaking wet. It was such a hot show. And I went to put my shirt down and everyone's like, oh, we want the shirt. We want the shirt. And I just threw it and they all jumped at it. And like 10 people just pulled the shirt. And I'm like, oh, the shirt's ruined. Somebody probably wanted that shirt. They just wanted a piece of the shirt so they could have a piece of memorabilia of the show. And that floored me. And then after the show, I took a shower. I'm hanging out by the merch stand, and some kid said, oh, I see you have Levi's blue jeans? I go, yeah. I didn't think anything of it. He goes, I dream to someday be able to have a pair. And right there and then I took my pants off. I'm like, take them, dude. He was roughly my size. I'm like, you can have them. I saw what it means to these people to go to a show and enjoy themselves. And I saw what we take for granted in America, and it really made my heart swell.
Changed you a lot inside at that point? A lot of this stuff?
Yeah, I have a lot of life lessons just by interacting with people who appreciate so much that we take for granted in America.
Well, and not that was a segue or anything, but for life lessons, if they want to know about some of them, this book that's what this is. This is all your life lessons in a book. And one of the things that I love about this book is the fact that each lesson's only about 2.5 pages long. Right. And you you can literally, what I was actually doing was I would lay down at night to read, and I'd have my book there, and I'd get through one chapter, and I'd be like, second, and then you don't have to stop in the middle of a chapter. You'll always finish the chapter, and then you close up and you go to sleep. And it was always nice, complete, awesome stories that you would tell. And there was always, the one thing I also liked about it is you didn't always feel it necessary to explain the lesson. You would just tell the story and let the story explain the lesson. You didn't have to have
what I got out of that was
none of that stuff. So it's a really good read, and a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, I think, today is probably in this book. So people this is a good book for that. It's really a good read.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me too, because I sometimes feel like I have imposter syndrome. Like I'm not really a writer. I'm not really a singer. I'm not this, but some people say, hey, I really like your album, or I like your book. And that means a lot to me. Even if just a small handful of people appreciate it, then I'm satisfied.
I think that imposter syndrome thing, I think that's another phrase for humility. I think that's probably a lot what it is. You always come across very humble too, which is
thanks.
Really. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
All right.
And we'll be back here in a couple minutes with Mr. Don Foose.
Hello, Cleveland. I am ZM Delgado, author of the Rust Belt Rock Review at ZachO'Lantern.com, and this is your weekend concert calendar update. First on our agenda, Friday the 31st at the Foundry. It's Left to Suffer, supporting acts, Victims, 86th and 6 Deep. Up next, Saturday the 1st, also at the Foundry, it is Midwest Meltdown. That is a major event featuring 10 bands, including Unvow, Church, Kings and Thieves, What Drives the Weak, Crown Vic, Dissected, Scab Hag, Paradox Rift, Fight from Within, and The Breathing Process. So there you have it, Cleveland. I hope to see you out at the clubs. Until next time, rock on, Rust Belt.
And we are back with Mr. Don Foose.
Howdy.
Spudmonsters, Foose. One Life All In. He's in a bunch of stuff. His book is Motivate Me, a memoir of inspirational quotes, stories, and life lessons. So we were talking a little bit about the past, basically, when you were kind of like, post Spudmonsters and stuff. And at this point, you're kind of a rock star, right? I mean, maybe it's kind of weird to hear it being said, but you kind of are. I mean, you have a whole huge group of fans who are know who you are. You're very well known at this point as a musician, especially in Europe, and mostly in Europe, but locally too. I mean, especially this area, the Cleveland area. Spudmonsters are actually a pretty big band locally also. How are you guys? Do you get caught up a little bit in this at this point in life? I mean, you're still a young dude too, right? I mean, you're still a young guy.
Yeah.
You get kind of caught up in it a little bit, did you?
No. I've always wanted, my father to be proud of me. I've always wanted to look back at my life and say, I did all right. And I've gotten to play in 23 countries. I got paid to do it. Nothing came out of my pocket, I got to see beautiful things in the world. I got all these life lessons like we're talking about. I remember one time I went to a restaurant with my father. He lives down in Florida, but he came to visit me and my sister. And we're at the restaurant. This was when Spudmonsters' Stop the Madness album first came out, and I wrote about that in the book too. We're eating dinner, and these kids come, and they're like, "Oh my God, look, hey, it's Don Foose. Hey, we have all your album, and we got the 7 inches and all this stuff." And they were, saying that, and my dad didn't realize. He knew I played in a band, but he thought, we played in basements or something, or in a garage, just having fun. And this dude's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go out and I got your album in my car." And he brought it in. He's like, "Will you sign it?" And will you sign this jacket and all this stuff? And I'm signing all this stuff, and my dad's looking at me like, "What the hell's going on here?" But
at the time, are you feeling kind of like, "Oh, I'm glad my dad gets to see this type thing"? Are you feeling good about that?
I did. I have to admit, I felt good about it because I failed so many times when I was growing up. I always quit things. I think my father was really let down. He wanted me to be an electrician, and I never wanted to be an electrician. And but those kids left, and I remember him soberly telling me, he said, "I'm really proud of you. You're really doing something with your life." So I have a chapter in the book. It's called Success, and it's how I gauged my success, the things I set out in my life to do and really set my heart to it. And, I'm not a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I'm very successful because, I've been to go, up in the Swiss Alps and in Austria and Italy. And
well, you lived your dreams, basically, is what you've gotten to do. And, another thing that I think would be interesting about your situation is that when you hear a lot of these bands who've done tours, especially like world tours, people are always like, "Well, what's it like being in this place?" And they're like, "Dude, the same 4 walls in every place we go to is what we look at, and then we're shipped to the next place. But I would think a band like you guys, you had time to kind of go out, or did you not?
I get to the club first thing in the morning, everybody's sleeping because they party all night. I get to bed at a reasonable hour. I get up 5, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning.
Even
whatever.
then, you were always this way?
Yeah, because I would try to get to bed early, wake up, do my morning routine, whether it's working out or whatever, and I go out with a camera in my hand and some bottles of water, and I just go. And
that's what you did.
Yeah, all the time.
Take it all in as much as you can.
So many pictures and so many memories of what we did, and it just popped in my head. Another thing I wrote about in the book is measuring success. I remember we played in Hamburg, Germany. I think it was in Hamburg, and we were coming off the stage, and these beautiful girls, they looked like supermodels, and they're like, "Oh, we were so excited to watch your band, and we want to know if you'd like to come and make party with us after the show." I'm like, "Yeah, let me check with our driver and make sure it's cool." So, we went and stayed at these girls' flat, in Hamburg, and they're bouncing around this house, you know, half dressed and cooking for us and stuff. And they had this big TV on the wall. It wasn't flat screen. It was way before flat screen. It was a big TV up on the wall. And I remember waking up in the morning and seeing the Spudmonsters Garbage Day video on MTV.
No shit.
And the dude's like, that's the Spudmonsters who are currently on tour with Biohazard, you know.
And you're watching this.
We're watching it. We got these beautiful girls bouncing around, like making pancakes for us. And it was just like, I remember looking at Scott, our guitarist, and I said, dude, we made it, man.
That's success, I was going to say. I was like, oh, there's the measure of success.
I remember thinking, this must be what Motley Crue feels like, you know.
What they at one point.
Yeah. So it was really cool, you know, just
yeah, that kind of stuff. It's like, it's surreal, right? I mean, like life feels like for a second here, it's just not real. You're somebody else, or you're something else, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's got to be awesome, though.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. And, you know, just, you know, like the kind of music you guys did, even Spudmonsters, all the way through, it lends itself to crowd participation as far as vocally goes, right? I mean, like, you can really feel like your songs are sung throughout your shows. I mean, I could imagine that's definitely going on, especially the gang vocal parts where it's almost like those parts are almost like saying, okay, this is for you guys, right? You know, it's almost like that, right?
Yeah.
What's that like? You wrote these words, right? I mean, like, these are words that you sat down one day and that you penned them all out and wrote them all out and you formed them, and right now that's all they are. But now you're up there and you're hearing them sung back to you and stuff like that. What's that like?
That's an amazing feeling. And I have such a strange writing style. Like, I have a sauna in my living room.
Oh, no
yeah,
shit.
it's a 3-man sauna. It's big.
In your living room?
In the living room. It's kind of like a yoga room that we have. My wife and I do yoga in there, and we have the sauna. But I will go in there, and I'll sit down, and I'll get in a meditative state of mind, and, like, I'll just write lyrics. And when I'm writing in the mindset that I'm singing this live. Oh. And the people are participating with me. When I'm doing those backing vocals, I hear their voices singing it with me, with my mic.
Oh, I see.
That's where I get that vibe.
So so you're almost writing based on the experience of playing live. So, like, since you've done it now so many times and so many things, you kind of understand how this two-way thing works.
Yeah,
I know you can write now.
I know what gets me off live, and I want to bring that every time I write a song.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because, you know, like a couple other things, like I would hear some suicidal type stuff in there sometimes, and I would hear Nuclear Assault. Like, Nuclear Assault was one of these bands that
John Conley.
Yeah, Conley.
What a great voice.
Cool. And sometimes I hear it.
That's what they've mentioned that in European magazines, usually about my voice. Yeah, which I don't see the similarity, but I love the guy.
There's some times where at the end of a line that tails off, it would sound like a Connolly thing, because he had that specific voice that nobody else had.
Right.
And so, but I hear that in there. Definitely the Anthrax stuff, even in the rhythms and stuff, like cool shit. The way you guys break down songs, you put a breakdown in there, and they're just purely for the mosh part.
Exactly.
That is it, man. Yeah. They're perfect, you know. Cool shit.
The crowd has to be a part of our songs.
Hell yeah, dude. Your music is set up for live.
Yeah, a lot of bands play stuff, and they'll play 1 meter all the way through. You have to have climax, breakdowns, build-ups,
speed changing constantly. Oh no,
there's a system to writing a song. The Beatles did it best, you know. Beatles know how to write a song.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing you kind of experienced or played with was just pure punk stuff too. I mean, there's some times where it's just, you know, Foose, for instance. Some of the Foose stuff is a little more on the punky side, and 1 minute song, 2 minute song here, you know, get the point across, done, move on.
Right.
Pop song, pop riff.
Those are my favorites.
Yeah, you know, and you're done, and you're and that's what it is, man. I'll tell you what, like if people like hard music and they listen to this stuff, if they haven't heard it, they will love it.
Oh, thanks.
They will love it, man. So then at some point, and we were talking that you're an author. This isn't the only book that you've written, actually. You wrote a book before this.
Yeah.
And Raw Life, which
I actually
you have.
I have that shirt on.
Shirt
on. What's up, everybody? Raw Life.
Now you're really into this stuff too. I mean, this is your diet, your food. You're all about eating raw vegetables. You're about fasting, juicing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff, and you're really into it, and you're real knowledgeable about it. You've learned a lot through the years. Another thing that you seem to be one of the people that you if something strikes you as interesting, it's like all in, right?
Yeah.
So and that's what you did here too, and it's obviously worked for you.
Yeah.
Because you look amazing.
Oh, thanks. You do too.
I'm watching some video of you, even similar, like recently stuff. You still move around. You're doing them same Eddie Van Halen jumps where your legs are doing the splits in the air.
Kicks,
and you're like 12 feet off the ground. And I'm like, he's still doing it. Like most people's knees would have been shot by now, as much as that stuff. So something's working for you, right? I mean, like, and you can, and if people want to know what it is, you have a book out that says, well, this is how I do it, right?
Yeah. I do yoga. I eat right. I juice. I take Chinese medicinal herbs that, restore your jing. The jing or the genes that your parents give you at the time of conception, they start to deplete at the age of like 35, 40. Yeah. But if you restore your jing, taking these herbs, you never get old,
And do you feel it?
Yeah, I feel great. Really?
Now, we were talking about in your earlier years, there are a lot of parties and stuff going on.
Yeah.
Do you still enjoy partying ever anymore? Or
I'd party, but I don't take any intoxication or
nothing.
I haven't even had tap water in 30 years.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's like,
So you have this very specific regimen that you have. This
yeah. And, and I'm strict with myself, but lenient with others. I'm not this guy that's carrying some flag and clobbering people over the head with my beliefs. And, whether it's religion or diet or whatever, I got my thing,
What you do for you.
I do for me. Everybody's got their own drum to beat, and that's what I do. Well,
in some way, it seems like, though, that you could just simply lead by example because of, like, you don't just, like, preach it, you live it, and it's quite obvious that these things are taking place and stuff. I mean, dude, the kind of music that you've always played, it's not really an easy music to get famous or popular doing. You know what I mean? Right. There's a lot of bands that did this and didn't. Yeah. Tons of them, and you somehow figured out how to like become that, and it has so much to do with what you put into it, right?
Yeah, and you know what? We did a show with Faith No More back when the Real Thing album came out. We played with them at Peabody's Down Under, and that was one of my very first few shows I ever did with the Spudmonsters. And I remember talking to Mike Patton, and he said, you just got to stick it out and play a lot. Just keep grinding. Whenever everybody else is sitting at home, partying and stuff, you got to be out there grinding. Just play show after show after show, tour after tour after tour. And the first Spudmonsters album, we did 3 European tours and what else do we 3 European tours. We did a Canadian tour, 2 U.S. tours, just on that album, that first album.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. We did.
And you were opening for a lot of.
Yeah, well, our first tour was opening for Biohazard. We came home. We had such a great response that we Carlos Fleischman right away said, "Hey, listen, Propane and Life of Agony are coming over." Both of them, their first tour ever. It'd be great to sandwich you guys together. So we did another tour, and it was like 2,000-3,000 people a night, every night on that tour too, and that was huge. Then after that, Billy Milano from SOD had his band MOD.
Method of Destruction?
Yeah, and it was their very first European tour. So we kind of co-headlined that with them.
Wow.
Yeah, and then on that, then we came home, and we got Debbie Abono to be our manager. She managed Possessed, Forbidden, a lot of the Bay Area thrash bands.
As I said, from the California area.
So she had the choice to manage us or Green Day, and she chose us.
Really?
Which we tell her that was her biggest mistake ever made. But she was very wealthy. Her whole family owned a chain of banks, and
so this was like a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
For her.
She got the band, Possessed, which was Larry Lalonde's band.
Yeah. Possessed was Larry Lalonde was
Primus guys.
Yeah, but he was the kid in the band at the time.
Yeah.
I actually met them at Chris Warp Records. I met them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did an in-store, Possessed did an in-store there. And I met the whole band when Larry Lalonde at the time was 16 years old.
Wow.
He was just an acne, pimple-faced young kid. And
he was dating Debbie Abono, our manager's daughter. And that's how she got into managing bands. They were like, hey, can you be our manager? She's like, I don't know anything about managing. I manage banks.
Yeah.
So she just started calling clubs, and she was just this little cute old lady she was a really pretty lady,
just
too.
Just took
though.
interest in it.
She looked like Linda Evans, you know, very pretty older lady, and she'd call people, and club owners were like, hey, yeah, she's really sweet, you know, and they booked, you know, she managed Violence. Remember Violence?
Yeah, yeah.
Great band, too.
Violence,
yes.
So I know you brought up the Mike Patton quote. You brought up that he had told you that, and you know, as I was reading through this book and going through it, that happens a lot in your life, where you'll meet somebody who somehow is inspirational to you, and they'll say something to you, and it's just that one line of that thing that sticks with you, and you could literally, your whole life now goes in a whole different direction from that point on, and you accredit these one. There's something that sticks with you. That just seems like that's how things went with you, right? I mean,
I get mine. You know, like when I meet somebody, I get something out of it, and I take it and I use it. Like I'm getting a lot out of this conversation that we're having. I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to use it in my life. You know, like when you get knowledge from people, if you don't use it, you're a miser. You know, if you get good, credible, you know, advice from somebody, if you don't use it, I mean, what's the point? We're here to learn.
So basically, you're always somebody who's always evaluating themselves and trying to better yourself in some way. Like that's a constant quest of yours, right? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I still think I have a long way to go. You know, and I never feel like I've reached the pinnacle of my life. You know, it's like I always want to better myself. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome, and that's a good thing because I don't want to ever feel like I made it. You know, and it's like, let me keep advancing in my life and doing things. And I still got a lot on my bucket list. And that's like the first chapter of the book, Sailing the Seas of Consequence, the story about David Lee Roth, you know.
Yeah.
He's talking about these
it's another one.
Schoolmates, you know. They're like, hey, you must be nice being David Lee Roth. And he's like, you chose that bank job. We were on the same starting blocks at graduation day. You chose that bank job. I chose to sail the seas of consequence. You know, hearing that story, that's why I was like, that's got to be the first chapter. That was a very inspirational quote, you know, like hearing that, it's like, that's my life. I'm a nomad. I like to get out there.
Take chances, take some risks. You can't, you know, like.
What's the worst thing you can do? You're going to
Safety
fail.
isn't everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are a little too safe, I think, today, right?
Yeah, you might mess up your hair, break a couple bones, but who cares? Get back on that horse and go experience life, you know. I've gotten to see so much because I haven't, you know, my father was so like, don't take too many risks, you know. He's like, and right, he just loved me. He was just looking out
protection
for me.
is number one, right? But
yeah,
you know, like speaking of breaking bones and messing up your hair and stuff like that. So when I'm watching you on stage and I'm watching some of the things that you do, and like you'll just all of a sudden be crouched down and you'll be like, this is time for a somersault, and you'll just dive out there and just do a somersault. You'll come back up, and then 1 minute you'll be jumping up on the riser, and then you're just like, well, it's a good time to do this. Like, what makes you decide when it's a good time to do things? Is it all impulsive? Like, are you just like, I'm just gonna do these things? Like, is the whole adrenaline and the whole thing, it just kind of like takes over, and you just are, because I'm wondering that as I'm watching you, I'm like, is any of this choreographed? Is any of this like, at this moment I'm supposed to do this, or is it just you just? It's
like when I look back at a video, I'm like, I did that. Like if you look at, there's a video, One Life All In beats the daylights out of me. That's the video of the song. The roadie that was with us was videoing us on the short European tour we were doing. And I jump out of the balcony into the crowd.
Oh, my God.
And after the show, you know, our bass player was like, I thought you were crazy. I thought you were losing your mind, you know. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that, huh? But in the heat of the moment, it's just, I'm going on emotion. I'm going on the vibe. And it's like, I don't say, it's not choreographed. It's not like, I'm going to jump up and do a scissor kick, land on the beat, then look at the crowd and say, let's do this. You know, it's like, I'm not like that. It's like, that's the vibe, but that's what I do.
So it's just like, if you notice, so you don't even know you're doing it, so it's kind of hard to ask this, because what I'm saying is, like, did this improve over time where you were able, or is this just you being you on stage and that comes out?
Yeah, it's just me being me. I remember we played CBGBs, and the guys from Sick of It All were at the show, and I remember Armand, the drummer, he told me, he's like, man, you look pretty natural doing that. And even the bass player from the Bad Brains, Daryl Jennifer, said it doesn't look forced when you're doing that.
No, it doesn't. You are a show in yourself up there. I mean,
it's
like
just a vibe.
Cool, man. It's cool to watch, dude. But you have to ask yourself. You're like, is this all improv? You know what I mean? It's because it just seems something like you say. You land on a beat, or you'll. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how you're doing some of this stuff. That dumb jumps you do, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck you even get that high off the foot.
Yeah. Air Foose.
Air Foose, dude. I love it, man.
Yeah.
So after all that, at what point do you start up the band Foose? And why, and how does your life at that point?
I took a few years off after Run Devil Run. That was like in 2002, and then I adopted my son in 2003.
Oh.
And
how did that? Now, what was that all about?
Well, my niece had a baby, and she was gonna put him in foster care, and my wife at the time and I were like, man, you can't put that kid in the system. And we weren't even planning on having kids, but we said we didn't want to see that happen to this kid. So we took him in, and one day in, it was like we fell in love with him, and he's 19 years old today and going to Lorraine Community College, taking coding, and is working at a bank, you know.
Oh,
yeah, he's grown up. But, you know, I coached his baseball growing up and his football and basketball and did a lot of things, best friends growing up. And, you know, I took some years off in his formative ages, you know, and after 5-6 years, I just decided, hey, man, it's time to get the ball rolling again. I got with Ryan Farrell, who's in Mushroomhead, and he was playing guitar in Hatrix's Jeffrey Nothing band. And I said, hey, you want to help me write a solo project? And he's like, oh, yeah, man, let's do it. He didn't really know much about hardcore. He was more of a metal guy. And gave him some things to listen to and kind of showed him, hey, these are build-ups and breakdowns and mosh parts and all this stuff, you know, and he really knocked it out of the park. We wrote some really cool stuff together, and you know, you could see the Foose videos on YouTube for like Let Down is one of the videos, and then Straight to the Point, and there's just some cool stuff that we put together as a band.
Like I said before too, like even the Foose stuff, you have a signature thing that makes you no matter who you're with.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what's going on. That there's a thread that runs right through all of this stuff. Sometimes you might, some of these bands like Foose, there's a little more of a punk edge. If I recall, a little more even the way you deliver your vocals and stuff. It's got a little more of a punk edge to it than even the Spudmonsters might have had.
Yeah, and
especially the One Life stuff is you're doing a lot of singing. You're doing a lot of different vocalizing that I don't even know. In a lot of the earlier stuff, you did as much as you're doing now.
I've had more freedom to be who I want to be and who I want to experiment to be, and I found a lot of who I've always wanted to be vocally by having that freedom with these guys. They're like, hey, you're the singer. You do whatever you want. And, and I just played around with stuff, and I was like, I'm really happy I did the One Life All In because it's where I really came out of my shell. I still am Don Foose. There's still those gang vocals. There's so much more to it. I use my influences of listening to Faith No More, or Fleetwood Mac, or Purgatory, or whatever. I'm all over the place. There's not like a cookie cutter song type that I have to do. It's like I'm going nuts with it.
So with these guys being from France and stuff, are you guys having to get together for everything, or do you guys do the old, they're recording the music in France and then you're sending the vocals and stuff for recording purposes? Do you guys do it that way?
Well, just for writing, we send back and forth on the internet. I do my vocals. I got a Rode mic similar to this one, and I do that. But then I'll fly over there to record the album. We went to Convulse Sound Studios for the first 2 albums, and that went great. And then I'll go over there to tour or go over there to shoot videos. But then, we had to shoot a video during COVID time where they shot their parts over there and I shot mine by myself, and that's for the song Sacred Heart. So if you see that, that's them shooting their parts in France, me doing mine in Cleveland, and then we made it look like we were in the
together.
same room. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you have to do both, a little bit of both. Some of the stuff is done through technology and making it, and the rest of it, you guys. Yeah. But you do go over there.
Oh yeah, I go over there a few times a year. But during COVID time, we had to be a little bit creative with it.
You like France?
Yeah, I love France.
Is France one of your favorite European countries, would you say?
Yeah, because I spend most of my time there because that's where my band's from. And Lyon is such a beautiful... Old Lyon is gorgeous.
Oh, really, really nice.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a few minutes with Mr. Don Foose.
Hey everybody, it's DJ Terry from the Homegrown Hit Show on 216 Beat Radio with your list of rockin' events for the week. First off, on Friday, March 31st, we have Grunge DNA, and they're at the Solid Gold Lounge in Brook Park. Next, on Saturday night, April 1st, we got 2 shows. Brian Allen Hager, he's at the Broadview Brewing Company, and Tricky Dick and the Cover-Ups, and they're at Around the Corner in Lakewood. These are all great shows. Check them out. But whatever you do, keep supporting local music and listen to me on the Homegrown Hit Shows on Monday night. This is DJ Terry, and I'm out.
And we are back, everybody, with Mr. Don Foose, Spudmonsters, One Life Fallen. There's so much stuff that he's involved with. A couple things that we kind of didn't talk about was the fact that, and you mentioned it, but back in the day, you know, and we've had Purgatory on here, we've had Destructor on here, and there was a time, you know, where there was an unbelievable heavy metal scene in this thing where, you know, there was just a few bands. There wasn't a ton of them like there is now. There's a lot of bands now. And they were, you know, specifically, you would have to say it was Breaker, Purgatory, Shock Paris, you had Destructor, and then a little later on, the Spudmonsters came on the scene. The Manimals did,
Black
right?
Death.
Black Death.
Yeah.
So you had these bands, and you guys were kind of like a solid unit in a way, right? I mean, like even though you guys all had these different bands, you guys all partied together. You all knew each other. Everybody was pretty much friends. I mean, at that point, right in time, it wasn't like. What was some of that stuff like back then? I mean, like what was you got like any crazy stuff that was going on back in them days that you remember where you were just like, oh my God, that happened. Was there some moments like who were some of your really good friends back then? Who were some of the better friends?
I was hanging around Jeff Hatrix a lot, you know, when he was in Purgatory, and you know, I met Dave Overkill, and you know, I'd go to the shows. I saw Overkill and Megadeth at the what was that?
Fantasy?
The Old Brooklyn Tavern.
Oh yeah, that one. Oh
yeah, I was at that show. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, there was the Old Pop Shop. There was the Bohemian Club. There was a lot of these places that a lot of people didn't really know about that, you know, did a few things, but scene as far as back then, you know, like I was hanging around
everybody pretty much
Purgatory guys and stuff. Yeah.
So did you start off like a punk guy, punk hardcore, and then metal kind of like was, because you definitely are crossing over. I mean, there's a lot of metal in your music too, don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's not all just punky hardcore. There's a lot of metal.
I got into you know, a lot of, my mom turned me on to a lot of that old rock, you know, that old Pink Floyd and all that stuff, you know, and Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all that. So I was brought up on a lot of that Vietnam War music and stuff, which was really cool because that gave me an element in my songwriting that a lot of these guys that maybe were brought up in hardcore or even the metal didn't really have. You know,
right.
I think I'm a little more rounded because I wasn't afraid to use some of my inspiration of people from other genres. A lot of people, whenever they get into hardcore music or metal, they're tunnel vision, yeah, you know. And it's like I like to reach outside the box and use all the elements to make my own thing. Yeah, well, and you know, like I think that what you're talking about as far as the tunnel vision goes, I think that it applied to a lot of younger. I was the same way. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was a thrasher. I was into thrash. I was into the Big Four and then Testament and Overkill and then also Exodus. And then
the whole poser thing and all that stuff. It was that all really happened, and I was all into that. I had very much tunnel vision. But as you get older, and you start to like learn more, and you become a wiser person and stuff, and you absorb more stuff through the years. And I think most people tend to kind of like change a little bit or become more diverse in what they're listening to. How about you? I don't hear it a lot in your music. I mean, you seem to still have that same speed. Let's just say it like that. The speed at which this music is going, that part's still pretty much the same. Yeah. Are you still writing the music you really love, or is this what Don Foose is just really good at it?
Yeah, I'm still tapping into old influences. When I got into, I loved classic rock and all that stuff, and then I got into the Ramones and the Dead Boys and Sex Pistols, stuff like that, and then punk rock and the Germs, stuff like that, and then I always loved metal too. I always loved Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. So Twisted Sister, you probably read the story about Twisted Sister in the book. I always loved, I got into the hardcore scene, and then I saw these people like, oh, that's not hardcore, that's not this, and like, that's too bad they feel that way, because I love to tap into other different genres. I don't consider myself a hardcore guy or a metal guy or a rock guy. It's like, give me a little bit of everything. I love all flavors.
And you've always been that way, you think?
Always, yeah.
So you've never been afraid to talk about, I'm not afraid, I guess that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, though. There's some people, we were just talking about it, where if you were into hardcore, you couldn't dare say that Fleetwood Mac was on your turntable.
I always embraced it, because I thought, I think you're missing a great opportunity to, like Fleetwood Mac wrote some great songs, man, some really good stuff, and I love the Scorpions. A lot of people are like, oh, Scorpions, that guy's voice is so weird. What a great voice he's got, you know? Yeah. Great songs.
A lot of people loved him. I mean, they're a great band.
So it's like I just love good music. If you write a good song, I'm there, and I'm your biggest fan. I don't care what genre. I don't care if it's country. If you write a good country song, I'll listen to it, and I'll dig it.
Do you have like a favorite? Is there anybody or any artist out there where you're just straight up like, yeah, that's my favorite?
HR from the Bad Brains was my biggest influence, just because, he's a black Rastafarian punk rock singer,
Yeah.
But, man, he just so amazing, And then I got to audition for the Bad Brains back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, and I wrote about that in the book, too. And it's, it was really cool. We played with the Bad Brains, and Chuck Mosley from Faith No More, the original Faith No More singer, was filling in. They were looking for a new singer, and the guys in the Bad Brains said, oh, hey, man, Chuck's not working out. He's drinking a lot, and he's taking drugs, and he's got some problems. So, and they're like, hey, man. They saw us play, and Spudmonsters in Cleveland. The show was crazy. People diving off, flailing everywhere, and they saw how crazy we were on stage. And they're like, "That's the kind of stuff." Their manager, Anthony County, was at the club, and he said, "Man, that's what the Bad Brains are looking for. So, man, it's really intense on stage and takes it to the people." And I was like, "Wow." And we were in talks about having a record deal. We weren't even signed yet. So I told my band after the show, I'm like, the Bad Brains just asked me if I wanted to go audition. I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, hell yeah, go do that, man. And they're like, just go for it. So I went and I auditioned, and they liked the audition. I went up on stage, and I just, it was an open audition, though. It was like all these people were standing in line waiting to audition. It was like karaoke style, and I didn't realize it was going to be like that. I thought I was going to get to play a song with the band. I knew other people would be there to audition. Oh. But it was weird. Everybody would go up and they'd sit on this little bar stool and they'd sing all the reggae stuff that Bad Brains did. But I wanted to show the intensity. I wanted to show my whole spectrum of what I was able to do. So I went up there and I did the song Soulcraft. And that was off the Quickness album. And that's where HR really sings, he barks, and he does it all. So I go up on the stage. I made eye contact with the band. They knew who I was. And the song started. I kicked the stool, splits into a bunch of pieces, you know. I kicked it out of the way. I start jumping around, and they're like, yeah, man, look at this dude. He's trip, you know. So I went right up into the panelist's face. I'm singing the song, just going nuts, man. It was like 3 minutes and 8 seconds of just total, like, Foose at his worst, you know. So I just took it to him, and then when the song ended, I just kind of bolted down the hallway, grabbed my backpack, and I didn't want to make eye contact. I was just like, you know, imposter syndrome. I shouldn't even been there, right? So I was like down there, out of breath. I'm sweating. I'm just sitting there like exhausted. And the guys left the panel and they came over to talk to me. And like, that was dope, dude. That was awesome. That's what we're looking for. So, you know, they're like, hey, you know, if we have you come up and maybe see what your writing style's like, maybe second audition, go up to Woodstock, New York, and, you know, we'll give you another audition. And I was like, man, that would be great. So I'm thinking here, I'm going to go back and have a second audition. And I go to the Limelight, the club in New York City, and I'm hanging out. And then Roy Mayorga, he was the drummer for Ministry, and he wasn't then, though. He was unknown back then. But he's in Stone Sour with the Slipknot dude.
Taylor.
Yeah. So he was the sound guy that day, mixing my voice and stuff. And he came up to me. He's like, oh, dude, what a great audition. That was awesome. Those guys really loved you. And, man, that's great. And I'm like, yeah, dude, they're going to have me back for a second audition. And I'm all excited. And he's like, oh, man. He's like, oh, I hate to bum you out, but, man, this black Rastafarian guy came later that night. He sounded just like HR, looked like HR, and they, like, really loved him. I'm like, oh. So I didn't get the gig, but I went home. Like maybe a month later, we signed a 3-album deal with Massacre Records, started touring the world, and I did all this stuff with the Spudmonsters. And the Bad Brains came out, did one album with that guy, Israel Joseph I. They did one album, and that was it. And they just kind of fell apart. HR came back to the Bad Brains.
And that's how that went.
Yeah, so what was meant to happen happened, and, you know, scratch that off my bucket list. You know, I got to audition for my favorite band.
Hell yes.
Yeah, man, it was awesome.
and you got to audition with them, and you didn't get them and make the mistake of joining them.
Right. It all worked
You know
out,
what I
man.
mean?
It
Right.
all worked out. It was so cool.
That's kind of crazy, but
To this day, I know those guys, and it's bittersweet, but also bitter awesome.
Yeah. So as far as like now goes, what I mean, you just, this book is fairly new, right? I mean, it's been out for a little while,
about
but it's
6 months.
okay. And you're doing the stuff with One Life.
Yep.
But what else do you do? Like what else? What I mean, like, does this take all your time up? I mean, are you really consumed into the music part of it where you spend a lot of time writing, you spend a lot of time doing things, or are there other parts of your life that
I'm a certified personal trainer. You know, I coach people in juice fasting, how to eat properly. One Life All In has a brand new 14-song album. We just signed with Fast Break Records, so that's coming out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
what's that called?
Eye of the Storm. Best thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, we're totally stoked.
14 songs.
14 songs. Yeah, I'm running out of lyrics, man. But you know what? It's cool. It's like we really went outside the box on this one, but it's heavy, and it's like, it's so cool. Like one song's got a vibe of Suicidal Tendencies. Next thing you know, it's like SOD stomp riff. And, you know, it's just like,
I already like it, and I haven't even heard it, man.
There's singing, there's yelling, there's barking, there's backing vocals, there's like every element of anything I've ever done and then some in this. And the guys in my band are the sweetest guys in the world, Clem and Franco, and then Kevin. Kevin's our drummer. He just actually quit the band. He's going on to play with some other band, which, you know, he was actually in Sepultura for a while. But he's going on to play with some other band, and we're moving forward without him. But Clem and Franco are the best guys to write songs with. That's our guitarist and bass player. But great dudes, man. They'll send me something up like, hey, this is great, but hey, let's shorten this part. Let's do this. We write perfectly together, you know.
They have no bullshit with each other. Shut up, I do what I want.
There's no rock star in the band. It's cool.
That's
it's
great,
like,
man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Especially from across the ocean, when you're doing it like that sometimes where, you know, it's like, well, I guess I can, you know, it's a lot different when you're face to face with somebody, but, you know, That's cool. That's excellent.
And they're
man.
really cool because, you know, they've always taken care of me really well. I'm the odd guy out. I'm from America, you know.
Yeah,
so
right.
They're always taking care of me, taking care of my travel accommodations and stuff. And
Are you guys in constant contact with each other, would you say, pretty much?
we do video calls all the time. And, you know, we demo stuff and we tell each other, hey, I like this about the song. I don't like this. Let's just, and it's real easy, though. It's like we don't, it's almost
it's simple.
Yeah,
The agreeances and everything.
Yeah, it's just when we mix an album. That's the only time we have kind of like, I think there's too much high end here. This is, you know, I don't like the way this is mixed. And then when you're doing that over a phone call or a video conference,
It's kind of hard.
yeah, if you're in the studio and we're like, turn that up, move that over, cut that short, good. But when it's through an email or a video call, then it's like, it's a little bit difficult.
What about recording? You ever get involved in any of that kind of stuff, or do you ever record?
Well, the thing was, on this new album, the first 2 albums I flew over there and recorded in France. This one, I just did my vocals in my own studio, and I got to take my time and do it the way I wanted to do it. That was cool. Then we worked with Chris, his name's farting out on me, but he actually produced Motley Crue and White Snake and Prong, and he's a big-time producer. We had him mix one of our songs. It came out pretty good, but our guitarist said, I think I could do as good as this, though. And he just kept playing with it. And then the mix just ended up being really cool. That's Chris Collier. That's him. Oh. He did, like, the White Snake stuff, and, like, he's a real big name in the industry. And he was working with us. It wasn't, like, so expensive that we couldn't afford him, but we were like, you know what, our guitarist Clem's really getting good with, you know,
doing his own
thing. Yeah, so he mixed everything and came out really great.
Are you now, the future of One Life is going to be this new album coming out, and then will you tour for that album? Will you tour America also? Or how would that work?
Well, I'll tour in America with my American version of the band.
Oh, you're going to do an American version?
Yeah, because to have those guys flying over here.
Will any of those guys be involved in it, or just you?
Our guitarist Clem says, you know, he's coming for the New York, Philly, New Jersey shows, and he's coming with a guitar player that he knows over there. He's training him on the songs.
Oh, cool.
Then I have a bass player and drummer here that I'm working with, and I'm going to make it work. And then I'll have maybe a Cleveland version of the band, and if I can get on some good shows here to help promote our album, I have the blessings of Franco and Clem for that. So that's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
That for the betterment of the band, hey, do it without us. That's selflessness. Those are the types of people you want to
get into a band with.
Yeah. It's no egos. And it sucks because I feel bad. Like, Franco's like one of the sweetest guys in the world, and he like, no, just do it. It's okay. I feel like I'm doing something wrong playing without him, but we do need to promote the new stuff.
Yeah, and when was the last time you played live?
It's been a bit.
Yeah, are you itching? Are you chomping? I mean, are you chomping at the bit to get out there and do it again? Is it something you miss?
I mean, I'm always game. I'm always in shape to do it.
Do you miss it though? I mean, is it something?
Little bit right now I do, because we want to do these new songs. We really love this new album a lot. I'll send you some stuff.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's different, but it's cool different, I think.
Well, the reason I ask you if you're missing it is because when you're out there, dude, you just look like you're having the most fun of anybody that's doing that stuff. Yeah. And so to me, it just seems like, yeah, man, dude, like the amount of fun that you look like you're having compared to some people who do front man type stuff. Yeah. You're just a different breed up there, man.
Yeah. You know, I was always embarrassed to play live, you know, imposter syndrome again, you know, and it's like I never made eye contact with the crowd. I'm just up there doing my thing, man, feeling it. And it's like I don't hold anything back.
No, dude, nothing.
I leave it all on the stage, and I'm usually wiped out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, an incredible amount of energy goes into what you did. I mean, incredible amount of energy.
Yeah, I grew up as a boxer for 20 years.
Oh, you boxed?
Yeah. So I've always had some sort of training going on. I never really fall out of shape. I mean, I let myself go a little bit sometimes, but it's not like
I have.
No, you look good, man.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I have big clothes.
Oh, man. But I try to stay always ready to go, if I get that call,
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you think, what kind of time frame are we thinking about this? When will this album, you think, come out?
It's supposed to come out the first week of May.
Oh.
It's done.
So you're just waiting for all the bullshit part of it now.
Yeah.
And like nowadays, it's gotten even worse as
Yeah.
far as getting it to clear everything and finally be released.
Well, we're doing this big show in New York. My friend Drew Stone, he does this big podcast called the New York Hardcore Chronicles. Great podcast. He's always got, like, anybody that's ever been in hardcore,
That's who he has on the show and stuff
on
like
his show all the time. So it's his big birthday bash we're doing at the Bowery Electric Club on Saturday, June 25th, or Sunday, June 25th. So it's gonna be a great time.
Hell yeah.
But, yeah. So he asked us to do it, and it's an honor to do anything. He's been a big supporter of our band as well. So just like you. So
Excellent, man. Excellent. That's cool. All right, I think we're out of time.
Is that it, huh?
Yeah, it's
That
about
went
it.
quick, huh?
Yeah, it does. Well, they always do. When you're just talking like that, like we've just been doing, and that was great.
Yeah.
These things fly by.
Yeah.
Anything else to promote or anything like that? I mean, you got anything else?
Well, I just got the new book, Motivate Me. You could go to my website at fooseforlife.com. FOOSEFORLIFE for life.
.com, and that's where, and you're selling the books online there.
For life, yeah. Yeah, the books are on there, and then my old book, Raw Life, that's on there, and then
And like I said, Raw Life is more like almost like a how to live, diet wise, and how to take care of yourself that along those lines.
juice fasting, detoxification, how to make elixirs to fight ailments of the body. There's a cancer elixir in there. There's
really?
all kinds of Chinese medicinal herbs that you can learn about.
Yeah, and if you want to be like, if you're somebody who wants to get inspired as to why you should buy a book like that, they should just first go to YouTube, watch one of your videos. From you can pick the Spudmonsters or anyone. Watch you on stage for like 2 minutes and be like, yeah, I want to eat what he's eating. Right? I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, there's a mini documentary about me on YouTube. It's Don Foose on determination. If you look at that, it kind of tells my my life coming into music and then getting into the raw foods and stuff and juice fasting and all that stuff. And it's a cool little snippet. And then it's got my website at the end of that video. I think it's like a 12-minute video, something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming down, man. It's
Dude,
been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Seriously.
Dude, it was an honor meeting you. I love your podcast, and
Thanks,
you guys are doing great things, man, and keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
Cool. We'll have to have you back down because you got your life goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But this is the first one. All right, man.
Thanks, Big Bri. Thanks.
We'll see you guys next week, Mr. Don Foose. Bye, guys.
That'll be fine.